Well, Buster Keaton made such perfect films, really. I mean, he directed them and he wrote them, and he was just an inspiration to me for throughout my life, really. And I first saw him at the NFT when the 60s, I think, or the 50s, or my and it was just brilliant. I couldn't get over his acting as well. In the Seven Chances, the Mary, who the girls he's proposing to propose to, comes and sits on the bench with him, but he doesn't notice her. And the look as he turns and sees he's proposed to him, to her, and she accepts him, it's just a wonderful expression. I don't think a new Python film would be able to happen. So the Python reunion, I think you'll have to make do with that, the O2. And I think we still haven't sold the four shows out. So you get tickets now. What did Maurice Sendak think of Labyrinth? Well, I have no idea. He tried to sue us, I think, for the wild things, but it was nothing to do with. It was just a song that Bowie sang, but he tried to sue us, I believe, for the wild things. Um, did David Bowie changed my conception of the. Yes, originally, what's his name? The guy who directed the film. Henson. Jim Henson. Originally, Jim Henson wanted to have Michael Jackson in the role. And it came to me as a surprise that he had David Bowie in. I wrote the screenplay kind of like The Wizard of Oz. When she gets to the center of the labyrinth, there's a little man and who's speaking through a big loudspeaker and directing everybody, and he's being very frightening, but he's not actually. And Jim wanted to get to the center of the labyrinth before the girl got there, and I didn't think that was a good idea. Was I satisfied with it? Well, maybe if I saw it again, I'd be quite happy with it. But I, I, you know, I wrote the screenplay, and then Jim gave it to. It took another year for Jim to give it to other writers, and then he came back to me and he said it's lost its humour. Would you put the jokes back in? So that's what I did, and I pulled it really back to the original shape. But I had to go to the centre of the labyrinth before the girl gets there, and so and I thought David Bowie was great, except he rewrote my songs. Yeah, Joe Dante got me on the phone and asked me to uh, write something about Gremlins 2, and I did a synopsis, um, and which I can't remember at all, but it didn't happen, so it didn't happen. Well, the film I'm doing now called Absolutely Anything. We've been working, Gavin Scott and I have been working on it for 20 years. It's about a school teacher who suddenly gets magical powers and can make anything happen, impossible things happen. And we gave up on it in 2003 because Bruce Almighty came out. And then Mike Medavoy in 2010 phoned me up and said, had I got anything in my bottom drawer? And I produced Absolutely Anything. And yeah, so it's produced by Phoenix Pictures and Bill and Ben Productions, and so my son Bill and he's known Ben since he was 4, so they're pretty good chums, and they're very good actually. Yeah, I really like directing, and I do storyboards. I draw them myself, and so they're not very. They stick little people or little creatures, and I love directing, and yeah, no, I prefer it to performing. Really, yeah. Yes, I think it's gone unappreciated. Eric the Viking has gone unappreciated, but some people love it, you know. And but the last film I made, Wind in the Willows, I think that turned me off making films for 16 years because it was just fell between UIP only put it on in the afternoons, and so it didn't do any good in Britain. And I got a phone call from my producer, John Goldstone, when I was in New York filming a documentary, and he said it's on at a cinema in Times Square, and I went down to the cinema, and it was Wind in the Willows on the lettering on the marquee, and no sign of a poster or anything, and I hadn't got a camera, so I went away to get a camera, and when I came back it was off. And it was according to the San Francisco Chronicle, it was the second best reviewed film of the year, and it was a beautiful film, and it just fell apart. You know, they didn't get distributed because Disney were going to go to straight to video. As it was then, DVD as it is now, and Warner Brothers took it over from them because they realised that they had to get a distribution in America in order to trigger their foreign sales, and they didn't advertise it. And it had two editorials in Variety saying, "Why are Warner's dumping this beautiful film?" And it was just tragic. Well, I suspect I'd been Mr. Creosote because I love eating, and I would like to get that fat, and I love drinking, and that's who I'd like to be in another world.